Hello everyone, my name is Supreme123 and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to see if we can beat Pokemon Silver using only in-game traded Pokemon. Pokemon games normally give you a few in-game trades. These would be to get Pokemon unavailable in your version of the game, or to just help you on your journey. But what if they made up my entire team? Traded Pokemon get a 1.5 times experience boost after battle, making them easier to train up, but the drawback of this is that since we're not the original trainer, if they get too higher leveled, then they will not listen to us in battle unless we have sufficient amount of gym badges. At the end of the game, this isn't really going to be too much of an issue, but at the start where we do have actually a level cap because of the disobedience issues, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Here are the rules of the challenge, which I forgot to say in my Oddish video, but I'm sure you get the idea of them now. I can only use Pokemon obtained from in-game trades in battle. I can catch other Pokemon that you needed for the trade and evolve them if needed, but I can't use them in major boss battles like gym battles or rival battles. The same goes for Pokemon caught for the use of HM moves, they can't be used in battle either. No items can be used in battle, only held items can be used, and no cheats, glitches, or exploits. And before we start, if you do enjoy the video, please do hit the like button and subscribe, it really helps the channel out. Also, if you have any ideas for future challenges, please leave them in the description or on my Twitter page at Supreme123. And without further ado, let's get into the challenge. So I started the game and picked Cyndaquil. As looking at our list of usable Pokemon in this challenge, over half of them are weak to water, so that means the rival having the water type will be a lot harder for this challenge. Our held item helped in the first battle with the rival, one of two battles I'm forced into before getting the first really usable Pokemon of the run. I called the rival Cable because I never had the Link Cable as a kid and this basically barred me from ever using Pokemon like Gengar or Scizor, which I'm still mad about. I had to play through Gen 1 the first time with a Haunter. Youngster Mikey is the only other trainer in our way of getting the first in-game trade, but before we can do that, we have to catch a Bellsprout. This Bellsprout means we can do the first trade of the game in Violet City with this random guy to get an Onix, and thus the first member of the team. Looking at Onix's stats, I'd prefer if I didn't have to. You'd think this 28-foot monster made of boulders would be one of the most powerful beings in the world. But no, it's got a measly 45 attack. Yeah, it has 106 base defense, but all its other stats are awful. And with its main weaknesses of grass and water being special types, that 45 special attack means it's no stronger than a paper umbrella. Here's a list of Pokemon with a higher attack stat than Onix. Sentret, Oddish, Spinarak, Paras, Ditto, Unknown. Yep, a blob that can't even attack unless it transforms, and a letter of the alphabet have better attack than a giant rock snake monster. Training up for the first gym mainly involves wild Pokemon and the remaining trainers on the routes. I can't level Onix up too much though. If Onix gets past level 11 then it will not listen to me in battle and do its own thing like use a different attack or sometimes not even attack at all. These obedience issues make the first few gyms a lot harder than they need to be, as traded Pokemon will only listen to strong trainers or the original trainer. And since we aren't the latter, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. I refused to do Bellsprout Tower with a Pokemon that is 4 times weak to grass, so I moved right into the gym. I tried the battle multiple times, but the combination of the super effective Mud Slap and the countless accuracy drops were too much. Oh, and Onix's attack stat is useless. Tackle doesn't even scratch a tiny bird unless I use Screech 2 times, but by then, I can't even land a hit. Sometimes I do get to Pidgeot, but by then my accuracy was far too low and there was no point. Doing it at this level is basically impossible without insane luck, and I'm going to have to go over the obedience level cap for this. Due to the obedience and everything being quite low leveled, it's really annoying to grind, but eventually I got up to level 14 where I learned Rock Throw, the best move against flying types at this stage with any Pokemon. I also learnt Bind, but that move sucks, so who cares. Here's how we're looking now. If the stats do look a bit different, I restarted the save file. I'm not hacking in 1 extra IV point like some people think I do for whatever reason. I got really lucky during the battle and got to attack on 2 of my 3 turns. I used Rock Throw all those times and it actually hit through the accuracy drops. Rock Throw doesn't have the best of accuracy either, so I was really surprised at this and I was very happy that I actually beat the first gym. It took a lot longer than expected and Onix still won't obey us all the times in the battle, so this is going to be annoying for the second gym, but at least the first one's over and I can carry on. I tried to avoid as many trainers as I could, but most of them I couldn't sneak past, including this hiker who was going absolutely insane. I tried to clear Team Rocket out of the Slowpoke well and Azalea Town, but Onix just doesn't want to attack them for whatever reason. Could Onix be a secret rocket agent? Next up is the Bug-type gym with leader Bugsy. Bugsy's team is weak to Rock Throw, so all I need to do is use Rock Throw, but that depends if Onix actually wants to use it or not. Metapod comes out first and Onix just decides to have a sit down. I didn't even go in with full health because I was confident that Onix would actually attack, but it appears that I was mistaken. It took 3 turns but eventually decided it wanted to win and took out the Metapod in 1 hit, and it did the same with the following Kakuna with another Rock Throw. Finally was her Bugsy Cypher. All I needed to do was hit a single Rock Throw due to it being 4 times super effective against Cypher, but Onix missed the first attack and Cypher started to set up Fury Cutter. Onix spent the next few turns doing its own thing as Fury Cutter got stronger and stronger with each use. But eventually Onix stopped being stubborn, used a Rock Throw that gave us the win and the second gym badge. The good thing about this badge is that it's raised the obedience cap to level 30, so now Pokemon up to level 30 will obey me in battle. You hear that, Onix, you disobedient little shit? You're under my command now, until level 30. With Onix's sudden newfound respect for me, we went to the Azalea rival battle. I lost the first battle because of Water Gun being 4 times super effective. I'm actually really surprised Onix survived 1 Water Gun, to be honest. For my next attempt, I had to devise a strategy, and this strategy was using the Falkner technique and lowering Croconaut's accuracy so that it wouldn't get a hit in with Water Gun. I went into this battle and Ghastly went down really easily. With Croconaut missing 4 Water Guns after the initial Mud Slap, I got it down to half health and finished it off with a Rock Throw, as I did with Zubat. It was a bit of a cheap victory, but I had to use anything at my disposal. On the way to the next gym in Goldenrod City, I got the TM for Headbutt from Ilex Forest and taught it to Onix over Tackle. It's just a straight up upgrade to Tackle, so it's really going to benefit from Onix's minus 15 attack stat. Also on the way I caught Drowsy. This is so we can do the next in-game trade to get a Machop from the Goldenrod department store. Machop is a brilliant Pokemon with a very high attack stat that will be fantastic against the 3rd gym. Training it before the 3rd gym is a lot easier thanks to the 1.5 times boost in experience that the traded Pokemon get. Getting a Machop right before the 3rd gym is meant to make it a whole lot easier for just playing through your regular playthrough, and it's going to do a lot better in this playthrough, I'll tell you that much. I entered the 3rd gym and with a grand total of 3 Karate Chops, got the gym badge in the fastest of circumstances. No wonder Whitney started crying. Girls don't like it when I finish too fast, it seems. Speeding through all of the game to get to Olivine City ready to get my next team member, but on the way Machop evolved into Machoke. This is the point where if I could trade, I would, and then have a fully evolved Machamp on my team, but link cables don't exist in my life, so here is what is, in my view, a fully evolved Machop. I got the Strength HM and taught it to Machoke, and got the Fishing Rod to get a Krabby, and seconds after catching it, just gave it away to some random guy to get a Voltorb. Voltorb is a very fast Pokemon and has an okay special attack stat, but that's about it. It doesn't learn any electric type moves to make use of that special attack though. The only electric type moves Voltorb can learn are both TM moves. One you get from the game corner, and the other it's obtained in the post game. I beat the rival in Ecruteak City and went into what will be a very difficult gym battle. The only way I can damage the ghost types in this gym is to use the elemental punches which I had to teach to Machoke, which aren't very strong because they go off its special attack stat, which is awful. The first attempt at the gym battle went about as well as I expected. I tried to get Morty's Pokemon to curse to lower their own HP, and I managed to take them out well enough to get to his last Pokemon Gengar, but it is far too strong, so I need to devise a bit of strategy. It took me about 4 tries to get a winning run, and here it is. Since Machoke is too high a level, it refuses to attack Ghastly, who just uses Curse and Lick to gradually lower my HP and paralyze Machoke. I switched into Voltorb and hoped that it took itself out with another Curse, but it just spammed Lip, and now Voltorb is gone. Machoke comes back in and beats the Ghastly. Then Machoke just decided, you know what, I can't be bothered anymore, and just let itself faint to the following Haunter. So now we're down to just Onix, and a Rock Throw takes out the Haunter, and next up is Haunter number 2. It does take a good chunk of damage out with Nightshade, but 2 Rock Throws take it out, and now it's just a 1v1 with Onix and Gengar. Onix levels up, fearing the worst that it's just going to disobey me and lose the battle, but by some miracle, it gets off 3 successive Mud Slaps and takes out the Gengar and gives us the victory. Maybe I've been too hard on you, Onix. Now Pokemon up to level 50 will obey me now that we have the Fog badge, and we're good for the next few gym battles. While going about my business, Voltorb hit level 30 and evolved into Electrode before finding out I need to go to Cyanwood City to pick up some medicine for the sick Ampharos. Luckily the next gym is there, so I pick up the medicine and take on Chuck. Machoke is fairly over-leveled and takes out the Primeape in 2 Karate Chops, and then despite getting confused, takes out the following Poliwrath with 2 Thunder Punches. Easy enough badge to get, and right on to the next one against Jasmine. And it was another sweep with Machoke with the Karate Chops. Steelix took the hits really well, but still couldn't hold on, and that is the 5th and 6th gym badges done in quick succession. Onwards to the Lake of Rage where I caught the red Gyarados because it's a great headgem slave, spoke to this weird guy in a cape and learnt that I have to spend the next 50 hours of my life fighting under-leveled Team Rocket goons. Before that though, I made a detour to Mr. Pokemon's house, back on one of the first routes, to get the EXP share, a great item that gives Pokemon experience points even if they don't appear in battle. And now I can help out the caped guy, who commands his Pokemon to use Hyper Beam on some guy. What the hell, are we helping the villain? I just skip all this, you know, beat up some Team Rocket goons, kicked some Electrodes around and got the HM for Whirlpool, and set foot in the Mahogany Town gym. This being an Ice-type gym means more sweeps for Machoke, because fighting is super effective on Ice. Everything in the gym is a one-hit KO, and now we can take on the final gym of the game, right after some more Team Rocket nonsense. Going back to Goldenrod to take on Team Rocket again coincides with another rival battle, but due to the sheer strength of Machoke, it is an easy win. Being the final Team Rocket executive means that they are done and dusted, and have not only cleared out of Goldenrod City, but the whole of Johto. At last the world is safe, I can go on to what is really important. Gambling to get a female Dratini. Why a female Dratini? Well, for the final in-game trade of Johto, we need a female Dragonair. Why this person is so specific, I have no idea, but I get it all the way to level 30, where it becomes said Dragonair, and trade it away immediately for a Rhydon. Looking at Rhydon, you'd think it's on par with the likes of Tyranitar and Dragonite, but no, it's just a better Onix. Attack and defense are its best stats, with very poor special attack and defense, so of course I had to teach it Thunder Punch. I also taught Ice Punch to Machoke, as Ice is super effective against the final gym leader's Dragon-type Pokemon. Our battle with Clair doesn't go too well. I'll start off with Machoke as it is the only Pokemon to have a super effective move in our team, but Thunder Wave makes the difference every time. The fact it makes us unable to attack some turns means that the opponent can just get in 3 hits, and with Machoke out of action, we're basically ruined. Electrode's moveset is too bad, and the 2 rock ground types are 4 times weak to moves that most of Clair teams has. I have to go through 3 Dragonairs to even get an attempt at the Kingdra, but by then the match is set. Being a water dragon type, Machoke's elemental punches are resisted, Surf is basically a one-hit kill for 2 of 4 of our team, and Electrode has no moves. It does take some time, but I do get a successful run. I'd lead off with Machoke, and with the first Dragonair missing Thunder Wave, it doesn't get paralysed and I can attack again. Then I send in Onix for the second Dragonair and it gets in 3 headbutts and brings Dragonair into range where Rhydon can one-shot with strength. The third Dragonair comes out and Rhydon gets one shot with its Ice Beam, and Electrode comes in to do as much as it can, then switching into Machoke to avoid being hit with a Thunder Wave and get the knockout. And finally we're on to Kingdra. Switching back into Electrode to get up Light Screen to raise my team's special defense, as it's then blasted by a Hyper Beam. Kingdra has to recharge, so I send in Machoke to use Thunder Punch, hoping for paralysis, which it eventually gets. I then just have to keep hitting it with strength as Clair's Hyper Potion is in vain, and with a few more strengths, I get the final badge of the game and head over to the Pokemon League, right after going into a cave because Clair is a sore loser. This means I can finally travel east of New Barktown to reach the Kanto region, where I have to travel through the massive series of routes, battling many trainers, before going through the completely empty Victory Road and fighting the rival one last time before the challenge to become the champion. His team did do a considerable number on mine, as he is a lot tougher in this battle, but I managed to pull through with the victory, but because I felt it was so difficult, I had to do a bit more grinding to make sure I was ready for the Elite Four challenge. I got the team to around the mid-40s, aside from Machoke, who was stronger, and Onix, who is just there to take some hits as kind of like a death-related sponge. I couldn't see it doing much in the Elite Four anyway, so I decided not to train it as much as the others. First up is Will, the Psychic-type user. Rhydon battled through the confusion and just about scraped past his first Xatu, as I then switched out to Machoke, who took out the Exeggutor in 2 hits, not before getting Leech Seeded. Next up, Will sent out Jinx, and the residual damage from the Leech Seed and a Psychic took it out Machoke, So I switched into Electrode to set up some rollouts that managed to power through the Jinx, Slowbro and the final Xatu to send us to the next round. Koga has been upgraded from a gym leader to the Elite Four, so, you know, a little clap for that, good on you. I thought since a bug type is out first, Onix might be useful. But then, one Giga Drain later proved that it was a bad idea, as Machoke has to come out and clean up the mess. Venomoth gets beaten by 2 digs fairly convincingly, as Fortress keeps on using Protect on the turn that dig would have worked, and eventually used Explosion to take itself out. Crobat uses the power of evasion hacks with Double Team, but luckily for me, Electrode has Swift, a move that bypasses evasion and never misses, so that takes care of that. His setting up was all in vain, and finally he sends out Mark, and after Electrode gets taken out, all I have left is a poisoned Machoke. But with the power of Strength and its own inner strength, Machoke holds on from a pretty powerful Sludge Bomb with 17 HP and gets the battle done and dusted. Bruno has been pushed up to Elite 4 member number 3 in these games, so another bit of praise for him, well done mate. His Hitmontop starts with Dig, which means I can't hit it for a turn, but it doesn't mean much as it does very little damage anyway and gets beaten. Hitmonlee does a bit more damage, but 2 strengths are the key to victory yet again. Then the last of the Hitmon trio, Hitmonchan, comes out and is taken out by 2 strengths also. Bruno then sends out his Machamp as I get in 1 strength, but it takes out its less armed self with a cross chop. Electrode Swift isn't doing enough damage and it gets taken out also. Rhydon and Onix are one shot by cross chop, and we get beaten by Bruno, the 3rd member of the Elite Four. I know this challenge would be difficult, but I didn't expect the challenge to come from Bruno of all people. So after that failed attempt, I went through the Elite Four a second time and managed to reach Bruno again. The Hitmontop went down simply enough despite trying to stall me with Dig and Protect. Hitmonlee's high jump kick was doing too much damage to Machoke, who I needed for later on in the battle, so I swapped out for Onix, who did his usual thing of being dead. Hitmonlee then uses Swagger, which raises Machoke's attack but also confuses it, but Machoke battles through and gets off a boosted Karate Chop because of it. Congratulations, you played yourself. For Hitmonchan, I tried to set up a rollout streak, but due to Electrode missing so many times, it just ended up being a punching bag. I brought in Rhydon expecting the elemental punches that go off Hitmonchan's awful special attack. They hardly do any damage, and I get the knockout. Machamp is out, and with Rhydon going down to a cross chomp, it is Machamp v Machoke. But by some stroke of luck, nay, a miracle, Machamp misses 2 cross chops in a row, leaving Machoke to get off the essential karate chops. Then I forgot he had an Onix, which did not faint in 1 hit, like a certain Onix we know, but it does end up falling in the end, and I can move on to the last Elite Four member at last. And this battle was a lot easier than expected. You'd expect the final member to be the best, but no. Machoke blazes through the first 2 Pokemon, Umbreon and Vileplume, with no issue at all. Then Gengar comes out and it's time for Rhydon to use Dig, and because Gengar doesn't have Levitate in Gen 2, it does a real number on it. Next is Murkrow, so I decided, why not use Onix? And the miraculous happens. Onix gets a knockout. Okay, it feints the Houndoom, but I'm not letting that get in the way of Onix actually being useful in the Elite Four apart from being a sponge. Rhydon takes out the Houndoom with ease, and with that we only have 1 person standing in our way, the champion. It's Champion Lance versus a team unwanted by their original trainers. Let's do this, their redemption story is here. First is Gyarados, who steps up the rain while I go in for the Thunder Punch. It gets in a boosted Surf that does a lot less than I thought it would, and another Thunder Punch takes it out. Aerodactyl is the next Pokemon out, and I use Onix. Aerodactyl then gets a critical hit Hyper Beam, and due to the retouch turn and it missing its following Hyper Beam, Onix gets the victory in the champion battle. Yeah, I'm surprised too. You earned that level up, Rocky. You earned it. Dragonite 1 of 3 is out now, and of course it's the one with Blizzard. It misses the first Blizzard, allowing Onix to get in a small amount of damage, but the second one connects and I bring in Machoke for the Ice Punch. The Frosty Fists do the damage, not before getting paralyzed by Thunder Wave. It's Clair version 2.0 here. Charizard, yet another non-dragon type, comes out as I switch into Rhydon to resist the fire moves and use Strength twice for a pretty easy knockout. Here comes Dragonite number 2! Rhydon gets a small amount of damage in before being knocked out by Twister, so of course I bring in Machoke, and after avoiding another Twister, Ice Punches out for another 1-hit KO. And the final Pokemon on Lance's team is, you guessed it, another Dragonite. I send in Electrode to set up Light Screen, as I know from experience that this level 51 loves to use Outrage. So while it's going absolutely mental, I set up the rollout sweep and almost get the KO, but as Dragonite survives in red health, it breaks through its own confusion and uses Hyper Beam to knock out Electrode. So now, since it has used Hyper Beam, I know it will have to have a recharge turn. So in comes Machoke, and all I need is one hit to land. In hindsight, I should have used Ice Punch just in case Lance used a potion, but luckily enough he didn't. Machoke gets off a Karate Chop, and it just does the job, giving my team of misfits the victory and making us champions of the Johto Pokemon League. Those Elite Four members were tough with only 4 Pokemon at our disposal, but as you know, the run isn't over yet, as I have to take this team through Kanto. And luckily for me, there are just enough in-game trades that we can make a team full of 6 Pokemon. Let's see what they are. Now we've reached Kanto, the first course of action is to dash through all of the map and get to Fuchsia City, and on the nearby routes I have to catch a wild Chansey. Finding Chansey is a bit easier since it's not going to run away like in the Safari Zone, but it's still a pain to catch. I didn't want to risk attacking it as its defensive stats are terrible in physical and terrific in special, but I couldn't remember that, so I just didn't attack it at all. I just threw Pokeballs and it took so long I ended up having to use my Master Ball on it, only to trade it away to some random woman in the same patch of grass. She seriously couldn't be bothered to walk around a little bit to find one. Oh well, at least I get a Pokemon out of it, and it's another rock type, Aerodactyl. Now I do love Aerodactyl and it's a great Pokemon to have on any team. Attack and speed stats are fantastic, and it comes with access to moves like Fly and Earthquake. Very powerful moves that go off its brilliant attack stat, and I've got to train this up right away. I also taught the Zap Cannon TM to Electrode as I finally have it. I know I could have given it the Thunder TM ages ago, but that slipped my mind until way later on in the run. Then I had to change the in-game time to night to be able to perform the final game trade of Gen 2. I needed to catch a Gloom, which is only available at night time, and take it to Pewter City for a Rapidash. Rapidash is a pure fire type and it's okay. Its stats are very well rounded across the board apart from attack and speed, which are slightly higher. Its moveset is a bit lacking with only fire and normal type moves, and it's another Pokemon weak to water and ground types in our team. Fantastic. The gyms in Kanto are nothing more than just glorified trainers to gain experience off, except for the last one being Blue, who is now running the Viridian City gym. I struggled against the gym quite considerably as he has no set type, he is a varied team, and only half of my Pokemon are even close to being on par with his levels. The rest like our new trades and Rocky just making up the numbers. But despite this, it didn't take me too many tries to beat, with the main strategy being trial and error. Here's the winning run. He started off with Pidgeot as I ran Onix. After getting in 2 rock throws, Pidgeot uses Whirlwind to bring up Machoke, which is obviously not ideal, so I dragged Onix back in, and after a few more rocks being thrown, Pidgeot fainted. Next is Exeggutor versus Aerodactyl. I tried with a Bite which did an okay amount of damage before Exeggutor tries to set up Solar Beam, to which I use Fly to avoid the oncoming attack. As Blue healed up while Exeggutor was using Solar Beam, which you can't do as you are locked into attacking, which is obvious hacks, the hacker soon fell to another Fly. Next is Blue's Rhydon, so of course out comes Mr. Muscle. 2 Karate Chops would have done the trick, but anticipating this, Blue switched into Gyarados who tanked a Karate Chop. But then I just switched to use 2 Thunder Punches either side of a Rain boosted Hydro Pump, took out the Water Flying type with no trouble. Alakazam is out next and this is the one I was fearing, as I have no clear counter for it. I decided on Runny the Rapidash, which was a poor decision, as it ended up fainting right away, so I used Aero instead. A Fly and a Bite brings the Spoon Wielder to half health before being taken out, me then switching into Electrode, misses Zap Cannon and does a measly amount of damage with Swift, thus giving Alakazam the kill against half of my team at this stage. Rhydon, please help me out here. Despite Alakazam using Recover, a single Strength takes it out in 1 hit. Now was that so hard for the rest of the team? Machoke now comes in to finish what is started with the Rhydon, and we're down to Blue's last Pokemon, Arcanine. Rhydon comes in again as a hard counter and uses Dig to avoid the initial Flamethrower, gets in massive damage and ends it with a Surf. Tough battle indeed, but now we have an even harder one coming up that will require some immense grinding. The final battle against Red. Before the final battle against Red though, I did do a lot of grinding against the Elite Four and wild Pokemon around Mount Silver. I know for a fact these won't be high enough, but I thought it was worth a try. I went into the battle and actually did a whole lot better than I first thought, and was only a few moves away from actually beating Red, but I knew I needed a bit more strategy going into this. The movesets for Electrode and Rapidash could improve, and maybe I could give Onix a few more levels to tank a few more hits. I got all the way to his second to last Pokemon, Venusaur, before being taken out. This battle was semi-strategized by teaching my Pokemon moves like Toxic in order to deal with the Espeon and the Snorlax, but it was all in vain as I ended up losing, but I think that was a pretty good battle. As I just said, one of the main points was movesets, and the main one was the inaccuracy of Zap Cannon. This is when I then remembered that I could get the TM for Thunder so early on in the game. And here's why it's better than Zap Cannon. It's 100% accurate in the rain, which Blastos will always try and set up, which will end up being the cause of its own downfall. Pun not intended. So I had to travel all the way back to Goldenrod City and got the TM for Thunder in the game corner. A brilliant 120 base power move, coupled with the same type attack bonus, and in general better accuracy than Zap Cannon. Here's how the team is looking now in terms of levels, because I forgot to show the moveset stats before the final battle. Low 60s and high 60s are what I went for here, the two in the high 60s being my more important Pokemon Machoke and Electrode, as they are my Brain and Brawn. So here we have the final battle against Red. Starting with Pikachu, I use Rhydon. It lowers my attack first turn, which will make Dig hurt a lot less, and makes Pikachu survive in red health, prompting a full restore. It does take a bit longer than expected, but Pikachu does go down. At least he used a full restore on it. Red then sends in Espeon as I go for the Toxic strategy that worked last time with Electrode. A strong Psychic lands and leaves the Ball Boy on 68 HP, so close. I swap into Rocky to take a hit for a clean switch into something that might actually tank a hit. I leveled up Runny the Rapidash a bit too that I forgot to show, and now it can take a hit from the Espeon and use its Ember for a tiny bit of damage when I could have used Fire Blast, but I misclicked. Aerodactyl then comes in to stall some turns of Toxic with Fly, and ended up taking out Espeon, which was unexpected but extremely welcome. Blastoise is coming out now, so I throw in Machoke and hope for the Thunder Punch hacks. Blastoise uses Whirlpool of all moves and then Rain Dance. Eventually it does decide to use an actual move by the name of Surf, which takes Machoke down to only 9 HP, and Karate Chop takes Blastoise down to half health before being taken out by Whirlpool. So here is the big brain play, as Thunder, now being 100% accurate in the rain, takes out Blastoise's HP, and out comes Snorlax. A Toxic lands and Electrode has done all it needs to for now, as I am down to 2 Pokemon left on my team. Rhydon comes in to stall some turns of Toxic with Dig, since it resists Body Slam a bit better than Aerodactyl due to its higher defense stat. A bit of stalling out so Toxic increases in damage, and then Snorlax eventually goes down. Now it's time for Venusaur, and I remember from last time that it will try and use Solar Beam, so I go right in for an Earthquake to scout out what it's going to use, but then it uses Sunny Day, which is bad, as it now means it can use Solar Beam in 1 turn rather than 2. I go for the Fly, which is so close to a one-shot, and it gets in a powerful Solar Beam that takes Aerodactyl into the red. One more Fly does the trick though, and now it's a 2v1 against his last Pokemon, Charizard. Keeping him with Aerodactyl, I use an Ancient Power, which is 4 times super effective against the Fire Flying type, and gets the 1-hit KO, and wins us the battle against Red, and means that we have officially beaten Pokemon Silver with only in-game traded Pokemon. Well, that was a tough challenge, and a long challenge. The early stages of this one were tough due to the obedience of my Pokemon, mainly Onix. I'm very impressed at Machoke basically carrying me through the whole game, and Aerodactyl, if I had gotten it earlier in the run, it could have been a key component in the team. I hate that you only get it when you get into Kanto, when the game is basically over, but that's just how it goes. This game isn't the best for in-game trades at all, as 4 of the 6 are weak to water, but some smart TM choices and a bit of trial and error really helped me excel in this challenge, especially with the battles against Blue and Red. I was also really surprised at how hard the battles with Falkner and Bruno were. My team was really not prepared for them. How can a giant rock snake monster not be prepared for a battle against 2 small birds? But that is the end of the challenge, and that's the end of the video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. The script for this video is extremely long and has destroyed my throat. Hopefully my throat will recover and I'll be able to get the next Pokemon challenge out relatively soon. And to stay notified of when that comes out, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell icon. Remember to check out my social media links in the description. Also like the video while you're down there, and leave a comment for any video ideas you want me to do in the future. My name is VinSuper123, and I will see you all in the next challenge.